Good morning, traders. Welcome to the daily webinar. We do this one will be out in YouTube. So to all my YouTube viewers, hope you guys are staying safe wherever you are. And I hope you're enjoying life, at least while you're still alive, because we never know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So World War III might come up. You never know. I hope not. So enjoy life and stay safe. Let's go. I'm starting today with this yen because sometime back you guys can go and sort from it. I did this yen pair, I think when we were in this consolidation here, when we were just breaking out of this structure and we were making that consolidation, we're looking at this and we're saying that the possibility of them breaking out and consolidate here means we're getting to this level. We're coming to break this top. Right? That was the forecast at that time, which means you should try to get maximum trade you can get out of it to the upside. In this piece, of course, there were trade to the upside and the downside, which we traded. Right? Now we're here. So we are about to get to that target. And here is the thing, it will break that up. Even if it doesn't break that up and turn from that point, consider that and that forecast accurate because all it made was a contracting flat instead of a regular flat. That qualifies for a contracting flat, right? So if it turns from here, I'll be pretty okay with that. I think we've made a very good forecast. If it breaks the top, good for all of us. How high can it go when it breaks the top? You look at the bigger picture, and normally I'm not expecting them to break this top, which means I'm expecting a regular flat. Come here and then start your next move to the downside. Now you can see this move here, right? Now, if you didn't believe the forecast, if you didn't trust the forecast, if you couldn't trade because you didn't understand how to trade it to the upside, this is your chance to trade this to the downside and make money. Even if you focus only on yen and the yen pairs, right? You can actually make money doing that. The forecast works. So this is your chance. If you want to learn how to do that, and if you really want to be able to trade it with very good traders, you should consider joining our group. The easy way to do that is send me a message. Sorry, MANGAL 457. That's a Skype ID. Send me a Skype message. You can download Skype if you don't have it. It will take you 2 minutes to do. And send me a Skype message and I'll give you all the details. Let's go back to the forecast now. To my good friend who said, if that happens, he will stop trade. Don't stop trading. You might be the best trader in the world. All you have to do is get the knowledge on how to do it. You should join. You're the first person I'm expecting to hear a message from today. Because you saw it happen. You doubt it's going to happen. It happened. So what now? I'm waiting to hear from you. And you should learn to trade. You should learn the method we used to do this analysis. By the way, the Ukraine war was not there. We didn't even know if it's going to happen. Nobody was even talking about a war in Ukraine. So did that affect the market? I don't know. Did anything else affect the market? Any other news effect that might have happened from then to now, which was last year to now? I don't know. And I don't care. Because it's all part of the market. Everything that could happen or might happen or will happen in the future, including hurricanes and whatever else, it's all part of the market. It's factored in, not that it's factored in, but it's part of how the market moves. It's what makes the market create these patterns. So eventually it worked. What could have happened if something had really radically happened that the yen had to, the dollar yen had to go down was that, well, probably it would be a contracting flat. That's like your worst nightmare of what is going to happen. Instead of a regular flat, you got a contracting flat. That's not a problem. That's not something we can't see in the future. That's not something that's preventing you from trading. And for trading purpose, go to the 1 hour. This was a trade call. So let's assume for a second that you couldn't trade these internal ones here, although we did trade them. There are a lot of trades to the upside here we took. There are a lot of trades we took to the downside in some of these, like this one here to the downside. You can see those lines there. Those are sell setups. This had a few sell setups in it, especially this piece going down. Why? Because we were looking for this one down. I think you would remember that. Go back, watch those webinars. Once we see this start to form this one here, we knew we were going to get this one. And then we expect this to really take off like a rocket. We expect this to take off like a rocket. We expected this to take off like a rocket. And then we expected this to take off like a rocket, which it did. We started trading this from inside here. but not all my traders got it. And then some of them we had to get out and get in, get out and get in. This was the last trade that we took there. There was another trade here on Friday. I think I can't remember when that was. I wasn't in the room, so I didn't put that, but that was a trade called my traders to make. And now we're looking for another trade here, which means if this remains a flag, if this becomes a small flag, I'm expecting it to go there. Now, if this comes back deeper here, would we look for a sell setup? Maybe we will sell here, maybe not. Maybe we'll be waiting for this to finish and then look for the next big move out there. But if this remains a flag here today, you have a buy setup. Now, will this go strong to the top there? I think there's a very, very good chance that the up move, this final stretch of up move is going to be really fast. How high it's going to go above that? Well, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we just keep trading to the upside. When we see that turning point, good for us. We'll start the selling. And you probably don't want to miss it. If you have no idea how to find that turning point, well, now you know how to find it, right? Now you know what to do to find it. So let's see. We're looking for a buy here today for the trade, and then we'll see where that takes us. Let's start dollar index. Dollar index still going up. We were looking back for a sharp move like this to the downside. We did get a sharp move. It's not as big as we were expecting it to be, which means I thought that this, when this broke here, would come back to about this level here before they go, which is equal to this, like this small one here, right? Well, they did do that. They did drop, but it didn't go the distance, and now they're going up. So here's a question. Can we assume that this is the running flat? Let's take this out. Can we assume that this is the running flat? And now we're going to go break the top. Right now, we will go break this top. There is still one very big move on the well, relatively sharp move on the daily that, you know, I don't really feel that it's going to stand alone. It could be a standalone, but most times in the future somewhere, we might get this. So what is not going to surprise me is if this actually breaks the top, which it should do, break that top, and actually start dropping again, coming back to this level to complete this one. We'll always keep this in mind that at some point it could happen. That does not stop you from buying. That just means you're aware that if you see a turning point and you get a sell setup, after you break a top, you should consider a longer term trade. We did that in a few of them. We considered longer term trade and we did sell. So what is the big picture? Let's go to the bigger picture of this. I actually did this sometime when this was going down. You should go back and look at those big picture one. It was, I think, last year sometime. You should go and look at them. You would see what we were looking at. We were expecting this to come and break this low, which it didn't. It came very close, but it didn't break the low. Turn out contracting flat, right? Break this low. They missed it by a little. Contracting flat, go back up. Okay. So this eventually will go and break the top. This eventually comes and break the top. We already did that. It's going to have a lot of up and down inside. Don't worry about that. That's how you trade, right? I hope the last piece might be something like this. The last stretch of it might be really sharp before it starts to come back down. Now, a lot of people are predicting the dollar is going to start losing its value. Well, maybe they're right. I don't know why they say that, but they might be right. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, this thing here, once it comes to the top here, has a very good chance of coming back down. Now, that doesn't mean it can't make a bigger correction downwards here and still continue to go. Right? If you look at patterns, the way we look at pattern, what you have here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there is a good chance that that 5 is a 5-wave correction for downside. That 5 is one piece of a bigger correction, which means you get a bigger correction here and then you continue to go up. That's just for analysis purpose. It's irrelevant to how you would trade. Right? Now that you know that those are the possibilities, which means I'm not predicting the drop of this to the bottom here as yet, because I don't know that. But we're predicting one move at a time, which means this move to break that top. And then we will see when it starts to come down. The first move down will be sharp, whether it's sharp enough to come here or whether it's going to start to make deep pullbacks. Because if it makes deep pullback, then we'll be stuck here for a while. If it's not no deep pullback, it will continue to go to break the low. See, pretty easy. Not that difficult. Go back to the 1 hour. Trading, what we are doing? We're looking for buy setups still, which means if we get buy setups in here, we'll take them. If you get flag, you'll take it. There's a good chance you might even get a sharp pullback here first. You might get a sharp pullback here and then a go. I think there's a chance we can look for running flat here. And then upside. If this flags keep going, you buy it. Silver, downside. We have this sharp wave here and we don't have anything with it. So I was thinking this would be it and this would go back up and it starts consolidating here. Now that happens. Sometimes they consolidate next to the low and you believe that, well, it's going to stay there and drop. We've looked at that many times when we thought, well, okay, this consolidation will drop. And instead of dropping, they go up. You can look at it here. If you go back to this piece, you would see that once they made this flat, once this flat can finish there was a big consolidation here that actually went up, make another consolidation, went up. This once this is over, they did consolidate here quite a lot, right? So they don't always, especially in gold and silver, it doesn't always take off after the flat is finished in a very sharp move. So at this point, I would expect both to happen, which means that sell was really good if you took it. If you could, the only way you probably take that is if you're expecting this to happen, and that happened. So now can we look at this as the running flat and this move expect to go back up and break the top? That is one option. It eventually should still drop, right? Because the bigger picture hasn't changed. I think structurally the bigger one is still downside. We're still in this big sideways move and we're still in this one. 1, 2, 3. So at some point, this starts to come back here, right? Can it actually even do something like this, make a bigger one here and go back up there? The more they consolidate here, the more we'll have to relook at this entire correction, right? But if it comes back and drop really fast, if this drops to the bottom here really fast, then what we will look at is this is the bigger correction. And this is a 1, 2, 3, which means you probably come here. You don't have to make a 1, 2, 3, go back up, come back down, go back up and finish the move, right? So can it go break the top? I don't think so. I think we'll come here, retest the low, then go break the top. So we could be in this sideways move here for a much, much longer time. The more the pattern becomes complex, the longer you stay in the correction. And we're still in the correction. I don't think this is the start of the impulse to the upside. I've never seen an impulse where this came and retest the low and that became the impulse. They sometimes come deep, but not retest the low. That's rare. So I still think this is a correction. Here's the thing. We have two things to look at today. One is if we think this will go make a new high and then drop, or if it is going to drop from this level. Now, if that happens, we'll have to put this one with some one of these here as a smaller running flat. That is a possibility. I wouldn't exclude it. We've seen that. See, we end up putting this one because it didn't go lower as a contracting flat, because eventually you would relook at some of your patterns, because the more pieces you get, the more complex it gets. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to see which 3 pieces you think are the best for that pattern. And then you have 5 pieces. So which 3 you put out of the 5, that will depend. I still think it might break the top first. So what we look for today is if we get any buy setup or sell setup. For a sell setup, I wouldn't be trading it in this range. I'll have to be careful of the sell. I want them to break that range, and any consolidation under that range is a sell. There's a reason for that. We're not going to go into that reason right now. For the buy setup, if I get any buy setup in this above this stop here, or even if this is a sell setup right now, you can see that, but it's not a sell that I would take, because they can just break this low and go right back up. So what I would do is I'll wait for, like I said, break of this low before I decide to sell. If they break this low and go back up, any flag that it made here will be a buy for me. Any flag that I get anywhere to the upside that is a buy setup, I will take. Any flag. For the sell, and I mean I have to see that setup clearly. If you don't understand what I mean by that setup, then you need to have your own strategy of how you're going to trade this. Right? I'm just giving you my analysis of how it's going to work. The strategy is reserved for my trading room. Strategy and money management and risk management and trade management is all done in our trading room. So what we're looking for is this downside, not a sell. It might drop like this. Once it breaks this low, we'll figure out whether this is a flat. To go, it has to break this low. Make another flag, then I sell. What are the chances of it drop really fast? Well, in that case, there are things we can do to be in that trade, right? But then you'll have to manage it properly. In this case, not something I'll give here. In this case, what we're looking for is that it might break this low, probably go back up, and then we'll be looking for the buy setup. Let's wait and see which one we get. Right now, there's a lot of consolidation, but I've seen that before and they still take off to the upside. Gold, yeah, gold going to heaven. Well, it's not going to heaven as yet, but it did come back very much to the top there. We were expecting it to only break this top, right? Break that top and then go down, but they eventually came back all the way to the top. So here's the question. Can we look at this as a complete pattern by itself? I don't see that, because then if that's the case, I don't see where I put this piece. That piece doesn't fit as a correction of its own. I really don't think this looks like the final impulse to the upside. So I feel we're still in the B part of it, but we were in a bigger B part than we think. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point, even from the top here, whether they retest that top or not, we get something like this, come back here, retest that top, then come back, because I also don't think this is all the correction. Right? If that was all the correction, this one would have gone like this. It wouldn't be consolidating so much at the bottom there. So when you start understanding patterns and how they behave, then you start figuring out, well, how would this pattern, behave itself? Well, let's see what happens at this point. We can make an argument that that is the sharp wave we were looking for. It actually even came a little lower like this. If that is the case, if that sharp wave is the one to match this, then what we should expect is this to go break the top again. Let's see if we have any setup for that. Not at the moment. As a matter of fact, what it looked like at the moment is that this is more of a running flat. And that running flat looks like a sell setup here. This is a sell you can actually take, because if this proves that this is a running flat, and there's a very good chance that that is a running flat, this sell here is a good one. And if you take this sell, all you have to do is when it breaks this low, get it in the positive. When this breaks that low, get it in the positive, because breaking this low could mean 1, 2, 3, and still upside, right? We can't exclude that upside as yet. Maybe we'll eventually exclude it. I don't see where we put this, either with this one or with this one. None of those two look good to me. So we'll see where we put it. Can we put it with this one here? Maybe. I don't like that one either. I like this one more. So even though this is going to drop one more here, the chances are when you break that low, you can eventually go back up. So you'll have to be very, very careful with this sell, although it's a very good sell setup. Yeah, I actually like it. So you'd have to put it under the low. The chances are it could still go back up one more before they drop. Right? It's an incomplete flat right now. I think there's a chance they can come here, spike up one more, and then drop. Let's see what happens, but it's downside. So we'll look at this as a possible running flat pattern, and that one is breaking the low before they go back up. Well, let's see if that trade comes off. You'll have to be able to manage it. That's a trade we will take. I'm not calling and making a trade call for anyone. That is a trade we'll take. Once it breaks this low, we'll put it in the positive and see whether it keeps dropping or if they go back up. This one is a very good one for a sell setup. This was the top of that flat. They actually dropped. This was a sell. You'd get rid of that trade because it didn't go very far. And this might be a good indication as to what we think could happen, because there's a good chance instead of going down, gold might just break that low and go back up. I still think this is a very good running flat. And by breaking this low here of that flat, this is what gold has right now, right? It needs to break. You see that flat in there? It needs to break the low and then turn to the upside. If this pulls back a little here, and I think it will, this becomes a buy setup. Unless it comes back all the way to the low. Well, then we will change it from a buy to sell setup. It will consolidate for a while and then go. But as it stands right now, the way I see this developing is coming back to this level here, making a small running flat here, and then take off. So once it comes to this level, I'll put an entry order there, waiting for the next up move, which means gold drop a little, break that low I told you about, turn, go back up. So you'll have to get out for break even, and you have to be ready to get into buy setup, right? And that's why it's called wave analysis and not straight line analysis, right? You look at the waves, you read into them and see whether the possibilities of each wave as they develop. Now, the bigger picture of this is downside, and that's absolutely confirmed. There's no question about it. If you break this top, and I think we might break this top, we'll look for a running flat. This becomes 1, 2, come back here for 3, make a new high, right? So we were looking at this. We thought this would make something like this, come here and then go. The more it works its way to the top, then it's the same thing. It's just a running flat. There are many patterns like that. It's a very common pattern, not a big deal. I think you will find here is a good one when you had this sharp one and this worked its way up, it broke the top, and then it came back here, finished this running flat, and then worked its way up. So this would likely come back, maybe break that top a little, come back here, and then make a new high. So very likely that top will break. Let's see if we get the buy. And once you get that buy, expect it to drop. You take the trade off and expect it to drop. Let's see if we get that. Let's go euro. Euro going sideways. We're looking to see whether we will match this one with that one. That is this here, the equivalent of that. It's a little short, but I think you can make an argument for that. Take this off. You can make an argument for that being a running flat. Take this off. We don't need these anymore. I think you can qualify this as a good running flat. It doesn't have to be equal. It just have to be very similar. And you can see it. So now all you do is have sell setup. This was an easy sell setup, I think. This one here was an easy sell setup. Your first one would be here. Close. Your second entry would be here. Expanding flat. You have another flat forming here. It might be another expanding flat or running flat. And then you're looking for another sell setup to break this low. What happens from there? Well, big picture is downside. We know that. The question is whether they'll give us this sharp one or whether they're going to continue down without that sharp one. Again, we're looking at this also as a contracting flat because we didn't break the top. But you should always remember all contracting flats can become running flats in the future, right? Which means you can become a bigger correction in here. Go back up to the top there, which means this just break its way down here, come to break the low, break this low, go back up, make a new high, and then come down, right? That possibility exists. This might not just be the end of the entire move. Now, I hope that's the end of the entire move, and then we start a big move to the upside, but let's see. So we're still keeping this open because we might still get it. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. It's hard to call that a standalone. It's pretty sharp, right? As a standalone correction, it's pretty sharp to be a single correction of its own, but we'll see. Maybe in the future we will get it. Always anticipate. Today you're looking for a sell setup here, or we're looking for a sell setup. It will probably consolidate some more. I think this will consolidate a little more. You see this flat there, and when we traded it last week, we anticipate that it's going to go back up, complete a running flat, then drop. Turns out it's an expanding flat. Still a good trade. Same thing here. I think this is going to drop, go back up, complete a running flat, and then go. So if you're taking this one, like if we took that one last week, you should get out of the trade, let it go, re-enter the trade here, re-enter the trade here, re-enter the trade under the low. Why? Because this can become an extended running flat. That's why we took it, right? So the same thing we would do this week for my traders. We'll take it again. We'd expect it to be an extended running flat. If it's a regular running flat, you're out and you're in again. That's a sell setup. If this comes really high, then we'll change it. But as of now, it's a good flag for a sell setup. Pump. That was a sell. This was a sell. These were all sells. Then this went up. It actually did break that up slightly, and then it started to drop. Your first sell would have been here. I think we took it somewhere here, which was a close and enter, close and enter. This one that wasn't the one actually. That was in the news, that's why it's so low. Below that, we took that off. We didn't keep that trade because we're trying to trade the pound news. That's a different strategy. This one actually came down sharp, and we have one sharp wave up. So I think one sharp wave up here would make a nice running flat. For downside, we can look for sell setups from the top there. Can we buy this to the upside for that trade to go? If you get a very good setup, you can, but there is no good setup. There's actually a sell setup here. This is a nice flag for a sell. Take the sells, just like you should have taken this sell. And we could also make an argument for an expanding flat here. Could make a very good argument for an expanding flat there. So take the sells. It might not be a running flat as we think. All right, that's a very good argument there for an expanding flat, like on the euro. Except on the euro, it's much clearer. So the sell setup here is good. If it goes really high, then we'll reconsider it. But right now, it's a sell setup. Aussie. So Aussie, we had both sides. For my traders, you will remember the explanation for this. put the buy, but put the sell as well, because this is most likely this were downside. So we put both sides. You should be in that trade. You should be in this trade. And if you get another flag, go with that trade. Why? Because both sides were open. Right? If it comes down back, we're retesting this low. So the question you have now is whether this is a correction, go back up, or if this is going to drop through and break the low. Once it breaks the low, we start looking for buys again, right? Every time they break the low, we look for buy setups. So there are still sells. Actually, we did this in the trading room. For those who were there, you should be in that trade, absolutely. And then this one was it this morning? 3 a.m. my time, that would be Asian session. Another flag sell, any flag sell. Once we break this low, any reversal will buy. So we still have both sides open, right? If we get a reversal with a flag, we'll buy it to the upside because we'd assume that this is just a flat. If this continues to go, we'll take every flag we get, because every flag until it breaks out of the structure, and then you can take longer term trades, right? 1, 2, 3. This could be 1, 2, 3 and continue to go from this point. I think most likely we remember that we were thinking more downside, not for this one, but for this one, right? This one is one. We were still trying to buy Aussie, but we were absolutely selling this one because of the flatness of this and the way it's structured. And this is still below the daily structure. So this was a good sell. You probably should have got more sells here. Yep, you should have got another sell there, and you might even get another sell here. Let it make a flag. There's just 2 candles up there. Let it make a better flag, and then you go for the sell again. So this one, we will anticipate that this could break the low. There's a high probability it could break the low. We're still in the uptrend, by the way. So you'll be very cautious. Make sure you wait for that flag before you sell. Wait for the flag before you sell. If in any case, if it turns from here, we'll buy back to retest this top. But for now, the assumption is that they're going to break through, retest this low. So we go with the sell setups on this. US CAD. So, by the way, I did a CAD one earlier. If you guys would remember, you should go and check that as well. We're just like the yen, long term, we're forecasting CAD to do 2 things. Either go up and retest this top, right? Or make a consolidation like this, which is come here, do this, go there, do this, go there, do this, and then drop again. Something like that. One of those 2 are going to happen, and then go break the top. So why this can go break the top now? Well, because we already broke the low. So we're in a consolidation. On the 1 hour, we were in a consolidation that we were expecting to break, which was, I think, this consolidation here that we were expecting to break out. It did break out, but then came back down, which we also expected to happen because it didn't look like that was the impulse to the upside. And again, as you realize, we sold that Friday, you closed that trade. Now you're getting buy setup and the reversal, which means this could be a buy setup as it stands right now. If it goes back up from there, if they come lower, you can't sell this. That's not a sell setup. Not at that point. You have to wait for a flag somewhere in here before you get a sell, right? This was a sell. That was a good sell, but this one is not. That's a buy setup as it stands right now. Let's see if that takes off. Now, can this one take off to the top? Very possible. I don't think it will, because this is a really, really complex correction, and I think it's still not over. But I still think we're in the correction and this whole thing is yet. But let's see how high it goes, and then we'll decide what to do with it. Where this is too much correction in here to be the impulse. Yen. Well, I showed you already, and I still think we're looking for buys. And it's going to get to the top. Swiss is going up back. Let's see where we are. Big picture daily. We're back at the top. Here's the question. From this point, what happens? From that point, it should go down, because all of this is correction, right? All of this is correction. This is your impulse down, and that's your impulse up. So once you break that top, rather than look for buys, you rather buy the yen or buy the CAD. Rather than look for buys in this one, it could go higher. It might even break this top, because you could still make a running flat coming back here and then going up. We should look for sell setups. So once this break the top, I'll be looking for sell setups rather than buy it. It has to be a perfect buy setup, one impulse, take the trade, get the hell out of it. right? But it could go. Let's see where we are in the bigger picture. Yeah, you do have a buy setup there actually. Not one I would take, but you do have a buy setup here, right? It's a better buy setup on the yen, and it's a better buy setup on the CAD for me. With this, do that. If you take the risk, once it breaks the top, you've got to be careful, right? Because once the top is broken, that's the minimum criteria, not the end of the move, but the minimum criteria for the end of that corrective structure. I think it will come back down. We'll see. EURUSD. Okay, we were buying it from here. I think I in my last webinar, I told you we were at the bottom here, and I said we're looking for a buy setup because we expect this to go up. And we did a number of buys. This was not the only one. I think we bought here, we closed that, we bought back there. And then we were trying to buy here. That didn't go. It actually came here. Well, you can see we're consolidating here. We're probably going to come back here, and then we're heading for the upside. But this is a flat. So we'll be looking for buy setups again today. We broke the low. I think we spoke about that. We broke the low. So if they want to go back up either as a correction or probably total up again, this is the point from where it can go. Let's go back to the 1 hour. You're getting a bigger correction here now. Well, the question is, how do you look at that correction? I don't think it's over. I think we'll be here for a while because there's a lot of sharp moves in it, especially this one and this one. And this is even looking sharp. So at some point, they may have to come back, go back up, come down back. And if we get something like this, that might look like a complete pattern to go. But that doesn't mean you can't trade in the range. The range, the entire range of this thing is about, that correction is about 245 pips. That's good enough to do day trading. You just need 50, 60 pips on every move. So you can trade it both ways. Would I buy it to the top here? No. I'll be looking for a sell setup. It's already gone, right? It's already at the top. So let's get to the top and let's see if we can get a sell setup. Do we have a flag for a buy? No. There isn't anything you can trade here now. If you don't get any trade in here, let it finish and then go for the buy. But again, I don't think this is all the correction. I don't think this is it. I don't think that's the correction and this is totally going up. If that's the case, I want a really good flag here before I buy. So by the time it does something like this, I can put it to break even and then see if it comes back here. I think there's much more consolidation in, well, there's more consolidation to come in this before it actually takes off, right? So upside, Euro New Zealand, same thing. We bought here, we bought here, we bought here. There are a few break even as well inside of it. We had an entry above the top, it dropped. We figure out, well, it's a deeper correction. And this one also could take off like a rocket. So this one definitely we don't want to miss. This one turned out to give us the running flat we're looking for there. And now is a very good time for this to take off because I think they're equal. These two are pretty much equal now. Let's take this out and you can see. If you're to pull this one from the top here to the bottom, I think they're almost equal now. Yep, pretty much equal. See that? So this could take off anytime. Remember this one? Go back, watch this webinar when we thought this could go up and we said, we're not sure this would be the one, but we will take every buy setup once we break the lows. Why? Because it could also have been this running flat, something we figure out that exists, but you never know. Maybe they just take off without that, and this is not the running flat. Proves the running flat, good. Like I said, I explained this in one of my webinars, and I think I explained the difference between what we do from what Elliott Wavers do and what most people do. The difference of what I created is that we don't fix what pattern should come. We follow the patterns as they develop, and if it changes, we go with the change, right? The idea is you have to know so much pattern so well that you can see that happening. You can see how it's developing and you can see how it's changing. And you have to be ready for whether that change could come, which means you know that there are more than one possibilities of how any given pattern could develop. And knowing all the possibilities is the knowledge that gives you the edge in trading. See, that's the magic. If you know all the possibilities, knowledge is power, right? If you know so much patterns and you're very good at them, that you know all the possibilities of those patterns, that's where trading becomes magical. The hard part of that now is get into the trade and managing it properly. And if you do that, great, you'll be okay. So let's go. We're looking for the upside. Now, do we have a buy setup here? We didn't break this low. So I think if this comes back here, I'd like it to come back here to complete this pattern. A simple flat and then upside, which means every time it comes back to this low, I'm looking for a buy setup. Now, since we have left the low already, do I have a buy setup in it on the 1 hour? No, I don't have any 1 hour buy setup at the moment. As a matter of fact, this one is so sharp that if this comes back here and then decide to go, we'll buy this. Although I think it will be part of this correction. We'll buy it, and then it could still come back here and then go. So it could be a much more complex pattern developing. We just have to wait and see. Can this thing come back? Here is another option for you guys to think of. Can this thing actually come back all the way to the bottom here and go back up there and then drop one more and then go up? Absolutely. I'm not looking at that as yet. That's fantasy. Let it happen. Let this come to the bottom here first. Then we will forecast this bigger structure for the downside and then the upside. As of now, if you do that, what you would do is you will become what they call analysis paralysis. You start paralyzing yourself from taking trades because you have too much options and you don't know how to manage your way out of any options. So work with the simple pieces that you have at the moment, which is this one, right? If this drop here and give us a buy setup here, I'll take that trade up. Then if I see a sell setup here, I'll take this trade to retest the low. And then if I get a buy setup here, I'm taking that trade. Now, if it happens exactly like this, perfect, I'll do well. If it changes anything like from how I think it could develop from now, we will still see trade setups. That's the interesting thing about wave analysis. You will still get trade setups. And then you will figure out the new pattern that you think is developing, the more complex pattern. And good for you, you just keep trading it. You're okay? Look, this one also, we thought this would break out. It didn't. It did break out. It did take the top. It come back. We knew they were going to come back because this one is a sharp move. Now, this came back pretty deep, right? It's almost to the bottom here. So if this continued to go back like this one here, well, this is sharp. So I don't think that's all. I think this one is going to be really messy. We might come back here. We might go back up there. But if they do that, this becomes a flat for one more low. So can the Euro, Oz, and Euro New Zealand follow this pattern? Very possible. I would not forecast that until this happens. We would look for buy setups here anyways. Euro Swiss, this is the perfect one. This one went up there, came back, went up here. That's the trade we closed, we bought and closed. It actually gave you another one, but it didn't go deep, and you're getting another sell setup that might not really go deep, which is good. The more they stay at the top, the easier the trade becomes for the upside. I do have a sell setup there for my traders. It might be worth taking. If it follows the cat, it might drop really deep. So we'll keep an eye for this sell. And if it comes here, good for you. If it stops here, you get the hell out of it and look for the buy setup to the upside. Right? So this go. Let's see what's the big picture in this. Well, we're almost at the bigger weekly low, which is this one here. So can they make a deeper correction? Possible. We'll see. Is it going to break the low? We don't know that as yet. Depending on how this, if this turns out to be some kind of a huge flat, we might go break the low. Possible running flat. Yes, could be. If this crawls down slowly, we might take this as a possible running flat. Right? Especially if this keeps dropping like that. Because there's a lot of correction in here and this is sharp. So keep an eye on that. The sell is a good idea. That makes the sell a very good idea because you might get a sudden drop as well. Euro yen, upside. And this one is good. You should be in the trade already. That's the aggressive entry. The safer entry is above the top for my traders. This is the aggressive entry. That's the safe entry. And we're expecting this to go back up. Just so you remember, I explained that breaking this low is not a problem. I think this might show that we're heading for this direction, but this doesn't have to be the euro trade. This might be the yen trade, right? Yen, the upside, this is a very good one to keep your eyes on for the upside. And once it breaks that top, it's anybody's guess how high it's going to go, but it's absolutely going to go back down, right? Because you've got 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to go back down. So let's see. Go for the buy. We're looking for buy setups. We're in the trade already, but that's a very aggressive trade, and we will have to figure out how we manage that trade, something you probably would have difficulty doing. All right. Euro pound. Take it off. If you sold it, you closed it. It's not going anywhere. Take this off. And it's kind of going sideways with a sell setup showing up here. Again, we took that sell. You might as well take this sell, do the same thing we did with the last one if it doesn't go. And then we'll see how low they drop. Right? What if it actually keeps coming back? Okay, do we have something with this in the past? Let's see. We do. Right? There's a lot of them you could fix that with. You could fix it with this one. There's a big correction in the middle here. You can fix it with this one if we put this one in the past. Right? So there's a lot of option. You can actually fix it with this one if you think this is the final up move we're looking for. What if this is the final up move we're looking for? They're pretty equal. See that? What if that was the final move up we were looking for? And now it drops. There's a lot of options. So take this out and take this out. You don't want to bias on that. Because if it's going to go up higher, you don't want to skip the trade. But now the sell is a good one. Right? The sell is really a good one. So we take this out as well and go for the sell. I'll take this off. We don't want that to bias you. It's a good sell setup there right now. Tonkat. This actually didn't break out. They broke the low and they're giving you some sideways here. Can it go lower? Let's see in the daily where this could go. Well, you already broke this low too. I don't think this is going to go much lower. But I have to be careful with any sells. Try to look for buy setups. You're this low here already. That means that there's a very good chance we'll be heading back up. So once you're breaking the lows, you start to look for buy setups. Do we have a buy setup here? Not as yet, but if we do get a buy setup, we can take the trade to the upside. We can take this trade to the upside. We'll try to see whether it's making a running flat. One more down, then up. Or if this just continues to go. Do we have anything we can put? This could be a flat by itself. Right? But you could go back in the past and see if there's anything there you can put that with as well. Pound Swiss, sorry. It's consolidating here, but if it consolidates here, that wouldn't be a big drop. Probably just get a very small trade because you're inside of that consolidation. Pause. Okay, we're going back up, but we're still in this piece. So that could just turn out to be a bigger flat. There might be one more buy setups, just about one more trade to the upside. Break this top, and then there's a good chance we're heading downwards. That just looks like a big flat to me. So you might, if you get a flag here, there's one more buy to break that up. Hong Yen, it's going back up as we expected because we're in this big sideways move. Now this up doesn't mean that this would be the one that actually takes off, right? It doesn't necessarily, this could still come back here, drop again to this low and then go back up, right? There are many options of what could happen at the top here, especially if this is the top, which we don't know as yet, right? So if you get buy setups, you take it, but you take it with caution, which means you're taking one single trade at a time. If we get a sell setup, we'll absolutely sell it to break the low again, break this low here again. There was a buy setup there this morning. I think you had a buy setup here, very short term. Would I take the pound yen? I'll probably take the euro yen or the dollar yen if I get those two. Not the pound yen. Pound New Zealand, you're getting a sell setup. This was a good sell, take it off. You're getting another sell setup forming here. Depending on how high this go, we might see, we're probably still, I don't think we broke the low, so I don't think it's total upside. They're not, it can be the start of a slow upside. Can this be the start of a slow upside? With this was the correction we dropped. We're going up slow and then we'll take off. It's possible, right? In this structure, that is possible. But it's also possible that you're just making a bigger consolidation here for downside. See? So we'll just have to wait and see. If we get the sell setup, we'll take it. We can't prove the start of an upside as yet. We need a flat for that, right? So you would need this to go up really sharp like this, make a flat here, and then we will consider the start of the upside. As of now, this is the sell setup to break the low and probably drop. Aussie yen, We're at the top of the consolidation. And I don't think it's over. Again, I don't think this is the flat. This is way too sharp to be the flat. So I don't think this one is totally going to take off. I think this is making a bigger flat here. And there's a chance we're going to come back here, maybe go back up there, come back here, and then go. So when you're at the top, the advantage is you start looking for sell setups. Do we have a sell setup? Well, we had a sell setup, but that's more like a flat you would probably consider. Yeah, probably consider this more as a flat in the making rather than the start of the downside. So if you didn't sell this, that's okay. If you get a flag here, now you sell. Right? If it goes back up, can we buy this to break the top? I think we can do that. Just take one trade to break the top and put it to positive. Right? So let's see. But the sell absolutely will take it. Aussie, New Zealand, still in the sideways, leave it alone. Aussie, Swiss. Okay, this is absolutely making a flat because we came back all the way to the top, right? So there might be a sell setup here today to break this low, but after that, we're expecting it to make a new high, at least one more new high, and then the downside, right? Then the downside of this. So we're still in this consolidation. They'll probably break the low, go back up, and then drop. Aussie CAD. That was a good sell if you took the trade. Right, it actually dropped under this low, under one, or you take it under this low, or you take any flag that you get. This one didn't go back up. It didn't break, so you take it under the low, or you wait for this flag, and we wait for another flag again. Any other flag would be a sell. There was a sell here as well. So any flag now, any correction now is a sell setup. Where would this go back to? If this is trying to go up, this would become a bigger correction. And then up, right? Something like this. Right now, I think there's a good chance we can retest that low. And we would probably just go for an expanding flat in the middle. All right, let's see if in the 1 hour what it looks like. Now, 1 hour, it's still going down. We don't have any turn for upside. If it's making a bigger flat, this would have to go back up and do something like this and then come back here and then go. So there would be upside trading. We don't have any yet. So if you get a flag, if you get a correction here, we go for a sell. New Zealand Swiss, absolutely running flat. It actually even broke the top. So wait for it to come down some more and then look for the buy setup. Right? Probably let this come back a little more and then we look for the buy setup. New Zealand CAD. This is the sell, and this one could drop. Go for the sell. Should have sold that one also. We're at the top of the structure, and there's a good chance that they could get all the way back to the bottom here. So two things you're going to look for here right now. Once this drop, we'll put it to break even. Because if they stop here and go back up, we'll have to make a big flat here and then go out. But I think most likely you're heading for the downside. Let's see if we get that. It's actually a really good sell setup now as it stands. And you can really go for this sell. And New Zealand yen. Probably another buy setup here. Very short trade. It's a yen movement most likely. There's a very short buy setup that will happen here. Doesn't move very fast or very far. Swiss yen. I would avoid buying the Swiss yen now. Probably look for a sell setup. Although yen is upside, watch the Swiss because here you can look for a sell setup for this to come back here. All right, it could stay at the top here. It could stay here and continue to go, but don't buy this Swiss yen. Buy any other yen pair. If you get sell setup, take it. We don't have a sell setup, but if we do, we'll take it. CAD Swiss. Okay, you're out of the structure. We're expecting them to retest the low the last time. You're out of the structure, but this thing didn't go up very impulsively. I mean, seriously, you can see that didn't go anywhere impulsively. It went up really, really, really slow. So if you're going to get any buy setup here to take the trade, I'll be very careful once we break this top, which we are almost there, right? Because once they break that top, this move looks very much like a big correction. See? This here looks like a big correction. If this comes back to the top there, then you'll be expecting it to come back to the bottom here. More like a 1, 2, 3 within this entire correction, within the bigger correction. So we'll just stop here for a while. So it could go up a little more. I just don't like the buy setup there. It's actually setting up for a buy. If you see a very good setup, go for the trade, because they can come all the way to the top, right? It can go all the way to the top of that structure. We don't know how high it's going to go. And Canadian. Yep, we broke out of this as well. So we'll have to make an assumption that this was all the correction. That there was all the correction. This was more of a deep pullback. Very deep, very sharp. Go to the 4-hour. Not the impulse to the upside, right? Because it's really a big flat in the middle of this. So we probably will be stuck here for a while, most like the Pong yen, right? Having the same thing with this here, kind of stuck in the sideways. There is a buy setup. You can go for that. It might be very, very short term. Do we have a buy setup there? Not really. We're actually getting a sell setup. And that might be something we can consider. Because we're at the top, the sell setup is a good idea. So anywhere from the top there, any sell setup is a good idea. Even if it becomes break even, right? If this just drops like this and go back up, take the break even trade. But it's worth taking the risk from the top coming down. I think that risk is worth it. There's a sharp move down here. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we get another sharp move down here before they go back up. So okay, guys, I would close this here now. It's a very long webinar. I hope the YouTube traders can watch it to the end and share it. And I would see all of you in a couple of minutes more for the next part 2 of it, right?